What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Wednesday show, gang. Good to see you out there. Happy hump day. Hope your weeks are going well. Hope your early slates went well. Split day today. Kind of annoying the way everything's all chopped up. We had a 6-game early slate that started at 12:05. We had a 3-game in the afternoon, and now we got a 5-game tonight. But hopefully those of you who played have been doing well. I see Monty in the chat calling for Mr. Caglianone to get on the board, joining the Italian bomb squad with Vinny P and Wrigley. Let's get some more runs. Sounds like we got a little royal stack working there. Andy, good to see you, buddy. Noble RD, good to see everybody. Couple minutes late getting started, but only 5 games to get through. Going to get us in and out in an hour and change, probably. Nothing crazy. Half the size of yesterday's show, and we did like 2 hours yesterday, as usual. So we'll get through this one, but some interesting spots. It's a definitely fun slate to talk through, I think. For one, not bad pitching up at the top, I wouldn't say, because Max Fried's really good. Jesus Luzardo can obviously be very good, but not the best pitching board in the world, and certainly a little bit shallow when you need 2 of these guys. So I think we got to embrace all these options, including Mr. Corbin, who we don't usually like, including maybe a bumpy JP Sears down the bottom of the board. It's going to be really interesting to go through. Some obvious guys kind of up toward the top. Max is the only expensive pitcher, really. I mean, as was Luzardo at 85, totally reasonable. 8,000 for Lucas Giolito. So just Max kind of standing on his own at the top, and he's not even the top projected pitcher on you if you flip it for FanDuel. Very, very close up among the top 3, though. John, I appreciate that. John Hansen saying, "Hey, Tyler, got my wife to subscribe. Won't log a lot of time on the channel. Literally doesn't know who Bob Gibson is." I mean, there's a lot of people out there who watch this show more often than she does that don't know who Bob Gibson is as well. But I appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, we're only a handful of subscribers away. Whether or not there are people that ever come to the channel again, just clicking that subscribe button, just getting us over that 1,000 mark definitely makes a difference. So that would be appreciated. Hit the like button as we get started here on the show. Subscribe to the channel, as I just mentioned there. Hop on the old Vegas board here to start things off as usual. So you can see we've got one very meaty total on the board. We've got the Yanks pulling a decent number. Solid one there for the Rangers. But as I mentioned, we might have to embrace some chaos on the mound, especially where we need 2 starters. So just taking a look at this board, we start out with the Orioles and the Guardians. 4.09 implied total on the Orioles side of that one. They're going up against Slate Ciccone. What I'm seeing for them is a little bit of power. Ciccone's decent for strikeout upside. He can be good, but there's enough firepower in that Orioles offense to get to him. And if they're going to go a little bit underowned because people are just using him on the mound, I kind of like that spot. And they fit together pretty nicely with a lot of different teams and a couple of the big teams on the board. So I'm intrigued by them. Zach Eflin on the bump for the Orioles facing the Guardians. 4.50 implied total on the Cleveland side. Kind of know what to do with them. They're a fairly straightforward lineup most of the time, but we'll give them a very good look on this one, obviously. Second game up is a good game in terms of the offenses on both sides. We've got Lucas Giolito facing Jesus Luzardo on the mound, so we've got 2 usable pitchers in that one. I'd call this one a 4 corners game. The Red Sox, interestingly, sub-4 implied total, going up against a left-handed pitcher with the capabilities of that offense, just with some of those platoon bats and how good they've been against lefties recently. I'm kind of surprised to see that sub-4. I would have expected 4-1, somewhere in that territory, but there's plenty to work with there, obviously, and if that renders them a little bit underowned, again, so much the better. Max Fried on the bump for the Yankees. 3.99 implied total on the Blue Jays side. Definitely can roster some Max. My one question mark there is I shaved a little bit off of what the model wanted to give him innings-wise, what I would normally allow him to have innings-wise, just because he's coming off of a blister. He came out of his last start with a blister on his finger, so I'm a little bit skeptical about full depth of start there with Max, so it has a bit of an impact. Had I not shaved the innings down, he would have actually been our top projected pitcher today, even against a very good low strikeout Blue Jays lineup. So just bear that in mind. If you want to take the shot on, hey, I think he's getting his 6+, no problem, then fire away with Max shares, and he's very on the board anyway. And he was the top DraftKings pitcher. I'm remembering just how that was sorted by the decimal point difference. but it was a more distinct difference at the top of the board, I should say. Chris Bassett on the mound for the Blue Jays, entirely playable on a slate like this, but that Yankees squad is looking pretty interesting going against him at a 4.60 implied total and with just some of those big bats and the need to get to them. The White Sox and the Rays. The White Sox playing spoilers. Jonathan Cannon against Taj Bradley. Taj is going to be insanely popular on this slate. 3.74 implied total for the White Sox, the worst team on this board by a wide margin. And the Rays pulling a 5.37 implied total alongside Taj are going to be very, very popular in stacks with him, in stacks without him. The Rays in all facets of DFS today are going to be very popular at that kind of a total in this kind of a matchup. That game has weather in the area, though. Just be aware. Roth at last update had it yellow. His take, a lot of storms in the area. Just keep on checking back. There are all sorts of differences, as he notes, with Florida weather. Anything can happen. Total wild card. So just bear that in mind as you make your lineups. But obviously, that's a hot spot for shares today. And then we round things out with JP Sears against Patty Corbin. Corbin, another successful outing. It's been really frustrating this season. He's been good all season long. Giving up a little bit of power throughout, as he typically does, but this has been his best year in several seasons. Last time out, 5 2/3 against the Tigers. We wanted the Tigers that day. 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, 3 hitter. Didn't get the quality start, but still, that's a great outing. Easily capable going 6. His worst start of the year, 4 earned runs. That's his worst outing. That was against the Royals on June 18th. Really nice year out of Patty Corbin. Very much in play today. JP Sears, not nearly as good as Patrick Corbin's been this year. They were much more similar over the last couple seasons, where JP Sears not all that good, Patty Corbin not all that good. Corbin's kind of pulled away again, but Sears is capable of delivering a good start. And on a slate like this, with as cheap as he is, I think he's very much in play. So it's going to be dicey. 4.57 implied total for the Rangers. We're definitely going to both sides that discussion. We're probably going to both sides it with Patty Corbin as well, because we like those Athletics bats quite a bit, and there's tons and tons of power there. And eventually he's going to go pop. Even if it only happens once or twice in these 2 months, we're going to get 2 bad Patrick Corbin starts, at least. I'm telling you. This could be one of them. As we get into the pitching breakdown, which we just kind of talked about, hit the like button, hit the subscribe. The website is rotoscouts.com. If you're not familiar, everything at Rotoscouts is under $1 a day, all in pricing, access to everything that hits that website. New feature just went up today. We talked about it yesterday. You guys asked, we respond immediately. So you guys now have on the website for members, like I said yesterday, a static version of this with the projected lineups. So every day at the beginning of the day, when I put up the projections, I'll screenshot each one of these game by games, and I'm going to put it up on the website so that you guys have the entire stats board here. You can see all the projections and the home run model number together. You can see their current year stats, previous year's rates in a couple areas. Everything we talk about on these shows is going to be right in front of your eyes. It's not going to be dynamic. You're not going to be able to, it's just a series of images that you'll be able to pop up. If it's zoomed out too far, just click on it. You'll get the full image. You can download them, do whatever you want with them. You're not going to be able to switch between the games, like that, but you scroll down and the next game will be below it. And you won't have what I'm not going to be doing, I don't think, is doing the each time a lineup update, swapping it out, because that's just too many files. I have to save each one individually and then upload it, and it's a whole thing. So that's probably not going to happen, but at least give you the framework at the start of the day. This is what we look like. This is what the stats are. So hopefully that helps. It was requested, and it's easy enough to handle. Couple more minutes worth of effort. No big deal. So appreciated the suggestion and wanted to make it pop immediately. So go check that out. That plus all the projections, the home run model individually for each player, the power index, the stacks rankings, the home run picks of the day, all access under $1 a day, plus NFL, NBA, NHL, all right around the corner. You get access to all of those for that same price. Weekly, monthly, quarterly is available. Check them out. We get back to the pitching board. All right, so Max is, again, right up at the top here, Luzardo not unfairly priced on FanDuel, and that creates a little bit of back and forth where he's significantly offset by $1,300 on DraftKings. That's definitely going to make him popular on DK. And I think with maybe some under projection even further than I went with Max around the industry, I think maybe Max comes up a little bit light, and that is a good Toronto team that people are starting to respect. Their low strikeout. So I could see him coming in under owned compared to the cheaper pitchers on the board. Makes him very, very appealing. And again, I did temper that projection slightly. So he'd be further offset at the top of the board had I left it alone as far as the innings pitched potential. Needs every bit of whatever he's going to get, because that is, again, a low strikeout team. But Max, very solid pitcher, keeps the ball down, keeps the ball in the yard. Seems like an ideal spot to grab some Max Fried. Luzardo against the Red Sox is just that, platoon squad that the Red Sox roll out against lefties. They do have Willier in the lineup today, lefty. Challenging spot for him, but they've been working him in against lefties a little bit more just because he's one of their best bats overall. So it won't be a pinch hit day for him, which is fortunate. Maybe you get him a little bit under owned for the matchup, and you can take advantage of that, because when they get to the bullpen, he tends to get, when he pinch hits, gets good opportunities against the righties, and now we'll get that same pickup plus 2 plate appearances against the lefty. Taj against the White Sox at 7,000 is just going to be stupid popular on DraftKings. There's no way around it. You absolutely want him. It's a broken price. There's nothing we can do about it. He's going to be 50-60% owned, I guarantee you. On FanDuel, totally different story. At 9,000, I expect he'll be one of the most popular pitchers of the day. He projects right in the top 3. It's no daylight between those guys. So we're playing the matchup, the situational game, the ownership game, back and forth. You can use any one of those guys as aggressively as you want to. I would take whichever one is the lowest owned via whatever ownership projections you like and roll with him most aggressively. Taj is in the best spot by far out of those 3 pitchers facing the White Sox. But there are downsides. I would say he's the lowest end out of those 3 guys. He's the least reliable. He's run into the most challenges this season. And he's also playing in probably the worst ballpark. So you have that factor. You also have a little bit of weather in the area. Cicconi's interesting, but he's also, I think, going to get very, very popular. And with what we're seeing for the Orioles bats that we're about to take a look at, I kind of want to, if he gets aggressively popular, maybe slide under the public with him and grab up on Orioles bats if they're under-owned on the other side of that, and just kind of attack that spot. But Ciccone is good enough to win this slate. I mean, he has some strikeout stuff. He's been pitching fairly well. I think last time out he had a bumpy one. We'll give it a look in the box score in the game logs in a minute. Lucas Giolito, nothing wrong with that spot at 8,000. A little bit pricey on FanDuel, but kind of everybody is until you get to the dregs of the slate. So perfectly happy with paying 87. It's just a high danger spot against that really good Phillies lineup. 8,000 on the other side, perfectly playable over there, kind of the same story. Bassett against the Yankees, kind of similar to Giolito against the Phils, I would say. High danger spot, but on the right day, Chris Bassett comes away with 7-8 strikeouts in 6-7 innings pitched of fairly clean ball against these Yankees. Plenty of strikeouts on deck for him. He's good enough to beat them, but they're also very, very dangerous to him. 8,300, 7,800. Patty Corbin, as mentioned, it's been a good year. It really has. 78, 75. He's not priced up for it at all. That is an Oakland team that, when they're not hitting home runs, is a little bit more gettable. Even their heavy hit tool guy, Jacob Wilson's been in a little bit of a dive lately. Monty mentioning Sears with great numbers in 6 starts at Globe Life. I know it's almost as pointless as BVP, but how many starts or innings is worthwhile to consider ballpark factors for a pitcher? Yeah, it's interesting. I did spot that he had a good start against the Rangers at Texas earlier in the year. He put up like a 40-point FanDuel start. I just wouldn't really know how to quantify it outside of just the ballpark in general, the way the park factors would work in general. I would never really want to put a stamp on it and say because of these, 30 some odd innings in this ballpark, he's automatically good there. I don't know what the lineups were those days. It could just be happenstance that the 6 times he came through town, he faced a diminished version of that lineup. I don't think that's the case, but there would be more to pile into the calculation, I think, than just like in that geography, he's been good, if that makes sense. I'm not saying there's nothing there. There very likely could be something there, and it could be as simple as just the way that his mechanics blend into the background there, and maybe he bounces off the batter's eye differently than other pitchers do. So There's always things like that are a little bit around the edges that are difficult to quantify. It's a very good question. Don't get me wrong. And it's different than BVP, I would say, because you get, it's a chunkier sample, right? Because he's facing many hitters within each of those games, and then you're piling up a not overly significant number of games, but a not entirely insignificant number either. But yeah, I wouldn't want to put a stamp on anything and say like, yeah, he pitches well here, so let's go to him. I'm just saying he's good enough to beat that Rangers team anyway. Put it in a neutral park, and I'd be saying the same thing, and 76-63 just kind of works. But Corbin, 78-75, works all the same. Zach Eflin against the Guardians, 79-66. Very, very cheap, shaky option, but so is everybody in this territory. We just kind of talked through Sears, and then Johnny Cannon, maybe the one guy you don't particularly want. We're going to talk him through. We'll give him a look, but that's the shaky option on the slate with the Rays pulling the only 5+, ballpark, etc. Even weather to pile on top of it if you actually wanted them. See, we got the O's. We did not, but we did get the Yanks and the White Sox. So we got most of these. The ones that were confirmed already going into the show are already up on the website for you guys. And as soon as we're done with the show, the rest of them will get updated. 6:40 start time today. By the way, I realized after the show, I said, whoops, that's not the Rays. That's not the wallet inspector. I said on yesterday's show that we had a 7:07 start time because that's what FanDuel actually had their contest starting at early in the day, and then they adjusted it because it was a 7:05 start. So I don't know what happened there, but that's what I was referencing when I said 7:07. And then I noticed that right after signing off the show, I was like, oops, no, that doesn't cost anybody. That Rangers lineup just dropped too. Let me grab that. Get most of these in. Anybody hitting anything on the early slate? How'd that Tigers pitcher do? I wasn't watching any of the games. He looked really interesting. The hell is that game? Oof, 6-1. Yikes. Pirates put 4 on him in the second inning. Yeah, that didn't go well. 5 innings, 6 earned runs, 7 hits, 7 Ks. Found the strikeout stuff. Don't know how those runs were scored. But, yeah, not a good outing there. That sucks. He was interesting. That's the second day in a row the Pirates have come through against a good pitcher. They got to Casey Mize yesterday. Seven Ks, rebounded well. Impressive value bounces back. Okay. Yeah, again, I didn't see how the run scored, but coming away with seven strikeouts is not nothing. And he seems to have talent. He was a high strikeout, low walk pitcher in the minors. Anyway, let's dive into this one. 19 people here hanging out. Pick up some more as we go through. So I think the primary talking point in this one is the potentially under-owned Orioles and the power that they're showing. I'm seeing 3 guys above the magic number and another 3 in the 9s and another 2 beyond that in the 8s. Essentially everybody but Jacob Stallings putting up pretty big power home run potential in this one. They're going up against Ciccone, who has a solid 3.84 ERA, a 4.02 xFIP. Not spectacular, but clean. 21.9% Ks, 6.8% walks, 9.9% swinging strikes. That's a perfectly effective, fourth starter. He's given up 12.3% barrels, though. 91.5 miles an hour of exit velo, 46.5% hard hits. Bang, bang, bang. Over the mark on every one of those things. 4.15% home runs is entirely believable, if not a little bit light. He might be lucky to be at that number. So I'm a big buyer on all of this Orioles power. And like I said, at price especially, nobody above 4,500 on DraftKings. 34 is maxing out on FanDuel with some other guys in the 3s, but entirely reasonable and easy to reach. This team fits together with a lot of other teams pretty well. Maybe more so on FanDuel as I'm eyeballing it, just because we've got multi-position on these 3 key players. And then you get Gunnar in at shortstop. We've got the util spot to move around, and then you've got a little swath of outfielders here to work with. DraftKings, it's a little bit tighter for lack of the multi-position, but it matters. It doesn't really matter. You can obviously get all those guys easy enough. It's just a matter of what they can fit with creatively as you're going around to your secondary stack, your other teams. But especially if at 75, at 85, people start getting aggressive with the Ciccone shares, I am interested in Orioles bats. He's perfectly fine. As mentioned, he's one of our top projected pitchers on a light day. So you're going to have Ciccone in some, but make sure that you get Orioles. And like I said in the pitching rundown a minute ago, I would maybe consider flipping it if Ciccone's, just put a number on it, 20% owned, 18% owned on FanDuel, and 30% owned on DraftKings, whatever. I would look to maybe take that at like 10 compared to 20. Cut the ownership on him in half and double the ownership on the Orioles side if they're under-owned. I think it's a really interesting spot. Eflin at 66.79. Not great numbers over 12 starts, but not necessarily terrible. There are some positive attributes that you could maybe work with here. 5.95 ERA is obviously atrocious. Same with the 5.95% home run rate. I would argue maybe a little bit of bad luck baked into that home run rate, though. It's only a 10.7 degree average launch, 39.7% hard hits, 89.5 miles an hour of exit velo. That's not all good, but it's also not at all tragic and should not be leading to a nearly 6% home run rate. Some happenstance in there, some bad luck in there, obviously some bad pitches in there that got tattooed as well. 15.6% strikeouts, but only 4.1% walks. Doesn't typically, pitch himself into trouble via the walk, but obviously way too many guys on base with that 1.44 whip. He can miss bats. 9.1% swinging is not great, but not completely terrible, but only 25% CSW. Just a guy who was a better pitcher last year. You can see on similar strike throwing, 19.6% strikeouts, just 3.5% walks, a 1.15 whip, 3.81 ERA, a 3.81 xFIP under a 3.59 ERA. Much better as far as the home run rate, 3.22 on. This is obviously better as far as the exit velo and everything across the board here, but he was keeping the ball down actually more aggressively so far this year. 2.70 on a similar launch with similar barrels 2 years ago. Even better for strikeouts on, better swinging strikes, better strike throwing overall. 2023, undoubtedly a better pitcher than he is now, but there's maybe something to work with there. The Guardians are very top heavy. You've got some Ks baked in down here. You've got some weak bats down there, or let's say bats with some oddball power, or guys that I like who have been underperforming all season, Nolan Jones. So I think we can get some Zach Eflin at 66 as an SP2 on DK. At 79 on FanDuel, I question the actual value, the utility, the necessarily ability to book the quality start. 4 earned runs in 1 inning against Tampa Bay his last time out. That was on June 28th. On the 21st, 3 innings, 6 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, 3 home runs allowed. 7 earned runs in 5 innings against Tampa Bay in a start before that one, and it's just ugly throughout. That's how you get to these ugly numbers that he's got. So just considering the potential depth of start here, I think we're just kind of locked into maybe some dart throw shares on DK at 66. Probably wouldn't go there here. You're not getting your quality start out of him. So difficult FanDuel spot. Did I talk long enough for the Orioles to drop? Not on Labs. Let's see if we got him on Twitter. Worthwhile. Ohtani homers in his 5th straight game. He's pretty good, huh? Nope. Not a bit. Let's see. Yeah, so Eflin, just to put recency on the 13th and on the 18th, he made a double-A start, and then he pitched in the complex league against Pittsburgh. 4 innings in each of those. 5 strikeouts against the low-level Pirates. Gave up 5 unearned runs on 3 hits in 4 innings. 2 strikeouts against the double-A Phillies. Faced 18 of them, 2 earned runs, gave up a homer, 5 hits. But the what I wanted to see there was just double check the depth. So I think 5 innings is in the cards if he's going even just okay. 4 or 5 runs against over 5 innings. I still think he comes out, finishes the 5th inning. So it doesn't get us there at that 79 on FanDuel, though. Assuming the Orioles look something like this, again, very, very interested. The home run pick of the day comes from this team. Not to spoil it off the top of the entire show. Hopefully people aren't just here for the home run pick and then punching out. But Jackson Holliday is super interesting in the leadoff role there. Lefty bat, 3,600, 3,100. He's got 13 home runs, 9 stolen bases. Creating runs 4% better than average via WRC+. Hitting the ball very, very hard. As I've said about him a few times this year, and you're probably getting sick of me saying, this is just him starting to fulfill his potential. 260, 311, 415 is, maybe not entirely what expectations are. Still striking out a little bit, 24%, but that's down from 33.2 last year. 5.6% walks, down a little bit from last year, but the quality is up across the board. Very interesting option at second base. He's got second and shortstop eligibility. He's a little bit cheaper than Gunnar. If you need the 300 savings and you're willing to sacrifice their best overall bat, then that's a reasonable alternative on the FanDuel slate to just swap those two. If you need that $300 to, say, reach max free or whatever. You obviously very much want Gunnar, though. Gunnar at 45.34 has 11 homers, 13 steals at 278, 345, 456 line, 23% better than average for run creation. Cheap for his talent. He is cheap at 4,500, even at 34 on FanDuel. Last year, 37 homers, 21 steals, a 248 ISO, a 155 WRC+. We're underperforming talent, but most of the Orioles are underperforming their talents for the full year. There are very good reasons to pick them up in this spot today. Ryan Hearn at 41.29, first base and outfield eligible on FanDuel is great. One of the pieces that really makes this team work well as far as just moving things around, because you can put them at so many different spots in combination with so many different teams. So I love the upside there. 48.1% hard hits, 8.9% barrels, a 375 on base, a 373 xWOBA that tells us it's almost entirely real. Creating runs 34% better than average, all-star this year, and still so cheap. I really don't get it. 41.29, he should just be aggressively more expensive. Ramon Laureano at 39.31. He's got 13 home runs. This is one of his better seasons in recent memory, a 240 ISO, 355 xWOBA under the covers. Excellent season so far. Very, very affordable on DraftKings. FanDuel's got him up a little bit at 31. That's a different price than 39 on DK, but it's still very easy to reach. Colton Cowser with all the thunder in his bat. 8 home runs, a 200 ISO in 167 plate appearances, coming off of 9.5% barrels, 46.7% hard hits. And again, we're throwing him up against a pitcher that, as decent as he's been, is allowing that contact. Give me these bats. Give me especially these big lefty bat against this pitcher. Cowser last season in 561 plate appearances in his rookie year at 24 home runs, had a 204 ISO. It's a tremendous season for a power bat. Tyler O'Neill might not be in this lineup. That might be part of the, well, it's not like they're delayed. It's only 4:30. But that might be why we don't have it yet. He is in the projected up on labs. Let's see if they went a different way elsewhere. He's just dealing with what they're calling general soreness. Let's see what they say on... Hey, they got him in over there, too. We'll see whether we get Tyler O'Neill or not. Monster power. Having a bad season over 129 plate appearances. Has been mostly absent. Has been his biggest problem, as has been his biggest problem throughout his entire career. When he is here, he's a tremendous bat. Tremendous bat. Monster power upside, 31 home runs last year, a 270 ISO. This year he's cratered to 3 home runs and a 142 ISO when he's had an opportunity. Still 13.4% barrels, but even that is down significantly from the numbers last year. 36.6% hard hits. He hasn't struck out quite as much, but I think if we had given him a full season's worth of plate appearances, we'd probably be in the upper 20s, if not the 30s, as far as that strikeout rate goes. He is capable of drawing walks, as you can see the last couple of seasons, and he's not incapable of striking out at this 25% clip. You know, these numbers not dissimilar from 2 years ago. But when he's going at his best, he does strike out, delivers some walks, and hits a ton of home runs. 3 true outcomes type hitter. If he's there at 3,000, take advantage. 2,700 on FanDuel. I'd absolutely take some, but I'm probably a little less interested than maybe everybody above him. I would consider him about equal with Ramon Laureano. Everybody else above him, I would want a little bit more. Ced Mullins in the 8 spot, 3,800, 3,000, 13 home runs, 14 steals. It's been a minute, I think, since we've gotten much quality out of Ced. Since we've got time. Let's say for the month of July. Yeah, that'll hurt you. 217, 294, 326 with a 77 WRC plus. 1 homer, 5 runs, 3 ribbies in the month of July over 51 plate appearances. Did steal 6 bases in July, so he's got that going for him, but a little bit bumpy lately for Ced. If we extend that back to, let's say, June 10th, he missed a couple weeks there. Ooh, man, 121 plate appearances since June 10th, essentially since his last game in May. 182, 242, 309, a 53 WRC plus. 3 homers, those same 6 stolen bases that he accrued in July. 24.8% strikeouts, a 127 ISO. It's been a bad 2 months for Ced Mullins. Very much a hit and miss player. If he's in the lineup at all, you can play him. You get a little bit of power there. You can see an 8.38 in the home run model. Not nothing. Has stolen base upside, but very shaky. And then Stallings in the bottom spot if he's in there today, 2,100 on either site. On a slate like today, you can kind of just use that as a cheap building block at catcher on DraftKings. A lot less important to the FanDuel slate, I'd say. You've got affordable catching, basically throughout in this slate, though. But if you're taking an upside team that's a low-end hitter, but just by virtue of the rising tide effect, maybe you catch something for the cheap price on DraftKings. Beyond the Rabbit Hole, St. Laureano's been mashing this week. Don't really care about any given week-long sample, but he's just having a good year. Well, let's look. What's he done this week? Well, what are we saying? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday? You want to go back to this past week? Let's see. 280, 280, 680 with a 403 WOBA, 163 WRC plus, 3 home runs, 7 ribbies. Caught stealing once. 7 hits in 25 plate appearances. Yeah, pretty good stretch. 28% strikeouts over that stretch and no walks, but a 400 ISO. That'll take care of it. It's just, like I said, it's been, has it been his just flat out best season? No, we're still short of the mark for his best season. That was 2019. His age 24 season, really his first full year in the show. 481 plate appearances out in Oakland. He slashed 288, 340, 521 at a 233 ISO, 127 WRC plus, 24 homers and 13 steals. But this is easily his best season in the last 5. He's 1 shy of the home run high that he put up. That was 14 homers in 378 plate appearances in 2021. He's off the pace for stolen bases. He stole a few more bags in each of those years, but he's hitting 20, 30 points above the averages he was putting up. He's getting on base 30 points more than he did. His slug is closing in on 100 points higher than any of those seasons. The ISO's got 70 points on top of it. So, yeah, easily his best season since 2019. Still only 30. Little time to go if he's rounded back into this form. And really, a lot of those seasons in and out of the lineup has never made 500 plate appearances in the show. Not going to get there this year either. Guardian side of things, Stephen Kwan up top, 45, 3,000. Very solid, 285, 348, 393 season for him. A 110 WRC plus. That is a little bit off the mark, though, if you're Stephen Kwan. 292, 368, 425 last year. The year before, 268, 340, 370. So, batting average on balls in play is a key factor for him. He can hit the occasional home run, but we're still only at 6 for the season. 11 stolen bases. He's a good table setter, and that is his primary attribute. And then we need to be talking about the bats behind him. You got Ano Martinez in the second spot at 34.29. He's got 9 homers and 6 steals and 309 plate appearances, just a 165 ISO, a 91 WRC plus, and I think most concerningly, does not hit the ball hard at all. 268 xWOB under the covers, over 309 plate appearances. There is some concern there. This guy's not that good. So it's a real mystery as to why he would be in the 2 spot to me. But there he is. Jose Ramirez, Kyle Manzardo, even Carlos Santana are much more capable of holding that spot down. Yeah, he's got a 254 average, but he's getting on base at a 278 clip. He's got a 419 slug. Fine, all right, but there's not any run creation there. That's a weak bat. Very, very, very playable on this slate, though, because he's 3,400. He's got second base eligibility, 29 on FanDuel with second base. Pop him into the outfield, move him around the board. The flexibility alone with the second base eligibility included has value. You've got another second baseman later in the lineup who is not much more of a bat, even arguably less of a bat. So you can go back and forth between those guys. You cannot use the second baseman from this team at all. But just by virtue of where he is in this lineup with a 4.50 implied total against Zach Eflin, you're going to come away with Samano Martinez, and you should. If nothing else, he helps pay for Jose Ramirez at 6,000, 4,000 across sites. Jose's got 21 homers and 30 stolen bases, a 234 ISO, 143 WRC plus. Is he the second man across the 2020 line this year? For a minute, it was just PCA. I think that's the second guy across it. Very solid, very Jose Ramirez kind of a season, though. Looks exactly like himself over time. Really super, super consistent player. Average is actually up a little bit this year, so is the on base. Everything else just like right in line with expectations. Guy's a rock solid star. Kyle Manzardo's cheap at 35, 2,800 on FanDuel. He's got 16 home runs and 312 plate appearances, an 11.8% barrel, 40.7% hard hits. You'd like to see the hard hits up more to the point. I'd like to see the on base climb a little bit from Manzardo, especially with that 9.3% walk against a 24.7% strikeout. That's relatively okay. Should be getting on base at better than 295 anyway. He's got a 231 ISO, though, a 318 xWOBA that should normalize some of those on-base concerns, a 105 WRC plus, if nothing else. Love the upside. Love the cheap price. Real challenging there, though, with two of their more interesting or more big game capable, let's say, because Carlos Santana is up and down this year. But big game capable bats being at first base, that kind of sucks on DK. You can obviously get them both on FanDuel. 28-29 is no challenge price-wise. Same thing with 35-34. Between the two, give me Manzardo more often than not now. And even as recently as a couple months ago, that would have been Carlos Santana. He does get on base more, but he's not creating runs. 93 WRC plus. Just 11 home runs in 381 chances, 228, 323, 350. We're outside of being still very low strikeout at 18.6 and high walk at 11.8. We're not getting a ton out of Carlos Santana this year. I don't think we're getting our 20 home runs unless he goes on a real tear in August and September. It's been a nice career, though. Nolan Jones, downright interesting at 27.25. If I'm going to the Guardians, I am absolutely interested in getting some Nolan Jones shares in that. Even if I build one Guardian stack, let's say I was building 5 lineups for the big lottery, and I was using the Guardians in one of them, Nolan Jones would absolutely be in my stack on either side. 225, 320, 320 this year, a 0.094 ISO and 84 WRC plus. I get it if you don't want him. There's a lot of flaws there. He is still walking in at an 11.3% clip. Technically, he's cut strikeouts by 3.5 points year over year, while keeping walks not quite as high, but still very high. 46.8% hard hits is up from last year. It's up from 2 years ago. He's just lost barrel, but he's barreling the ball a little bit more than he did last year. Only 3 home runs, 7 stolen bases to show for any of that over 282 plate appearances. Nothing about what he's already done is good. He's got a 332 xWOBA hiding under there based on some of that contact, that ability to draw some walks. That's an interesting player, especially when we know that just 2 years ago, he went 20-20 in 424 plate appearances while slashing 297, 389, 542 with a 245 ISO, creating runs 35% better than average. A big chunk of that was in Colorado. He was playing for Colorado at the time, but a lot of it came on the road as well. Kid's good. There is talent there. So I'm at a home run in person. I'm a believer. Daniel Schneemann at 31.26 is that other second baseman. Very solid 12.3% barrels over his 253 plate appearances. It's resulted in 9 home runs, a 165 ISO. He's stolen 7 bases. There's not a lot else to like about this player, so we'll focus on that power upside. Does have an interesting enough walk rate, I guess, 10.7% walks. If we're interested in Nolan Jones, there's no interest in not to also be interested in Schneemann, especially on FanDuel with the 4 positions in play. Just makes him a tremendous asset to be able to move him around the board, even if you're looking at him as like a one-off, where it's just like, I need a position player at any one of those spots. 2,600 for him hitting 7th against this pitcher. There's plenty of upside there. So that's a reasonable one-off opportunity on both sites. Definitely a part of stacks. More so, I would say, than Brian Rocchio, who does not have much of a bat, mostly here for defense like Nick Allen. And the Braves aren't on the slates, I had to say. Bo Naylor in the catcher spot can occasionally get into one. Does have a 10.8% barrel, similar to Schneemann in that he barrels the occasional ball, but doesn't have a great hard hit. 10 home runs for him in 260 plate appearances. Otherwise atrocious slash line of 77 WRC plus, but very, very cheap in the catcher position, which is mandatory on DK. I'm going to go on a limb and say Orioles bats. Slade Ciccone. Orioles bats, Guardians bats. Slade, and then Eflin on DK as a dart if you want him. Yeah, right, John? John Hansen nails it. Imagine if J-Ram played for a team with a good lineup. Seriously. Oh, Semien? Yeah, I guess 2019. Semien also would have still been on that team, yeah. Ah, there we go. I'll pop that in there. Orioles lineup is in. So no Tyler O'Neill. Not surprising. I didn't spot that earlier. So we got Urias. $2,800 Ramon Urias. If you guys have been on the show when we've talked Orioles before, you know that I'm excited that he's in the lineup now, especially with that triple position eligibility on FanDuel. It just gives us another piece that we can move all over the board. Third base only on DraftKings, but that works. 2,800. He's got a 6.8% barrel this year. That's kind of where he was 2 years ago. Last year, he spiked up at 8.7% barrel. Always capable of driving the ball, hitting you the oddball home run, hitting a double that scores a couple of runs. He's an effective enough player. He comes in with just an 85 WRC plus, a 294 XWOB, but there's nobody saying he's reliable, consistent, or anything like that. But he can get you that occasional power shot at low ownership from down lineup. 301 pretty good plate appearances right there last year. Did create runs 15% better than average. He was quite a bit better last year than he's been so far this year, but that's going to render him lower owned, and we know that he's capable. Year before was not bad either. 264, 328, 375, just 99 WRC plus. Back in this year, he had 16 home runs, had another positive WRC plus. In a lot of ways, this is his worst season in recent memory. So I'm excited to have him there. 28 works for me. I don't love sacrificing Jordan Westbrook, who I'm just realizing now that I skipped over entirely in that rundown. I initially left him out because I wanted to highlight him because he's the home run pick of the day. And then I just left him out entirely. 10 homers in 200 plate appearances for Westberg so far this season. 12.3% barrels, 44.2% hard hits, a 203 ISO. Kid's a masher, and he's going up again against a pitcher who's allowing that kind of contact. So, Mr. Westberg, you're the home run pick of the day. Love the Orioles lineup today. That's a statement that's gotten us in trouble all year long. The Bo Sox, the Phils. I'm excited. The Saturday schedule's worked out nice. Phillies are in town. Play the Yanks on Saturday. Kind of crappy pitching matchup, though. I get Stroman. They get Ranger Suarez. Probably not going to go well for the Yanks. But I'm excited to be there. There should be a fun one. And that's the only 1 o'clock game. And then it's like 2 6 o'clocks and then a big 7 o'clock slate. So we'll have projections up early for you guys. And then it'll be one of those Saturdays where I'm getting back at about 5:30. And we just update with a bunch of confirmed lineups right there for lineup building time. Should be perfect. But the Phils are they're in Philadelphia right now playing the Red Sox. Lucas Giolito with an $8,000 price tag, 87 on FanDuel, very much in play. having an okay season, 3.59 ERA, but a 3.98 xFIP, a little bit higher, but not completely unsightly. 21.9% strikeouts, 7.2% walks. Looks a lot like, Slate Ciccone, essentially, without the ridiculous power against, but he is allowing some pop. 9.3% barrels, 43.4% hard hits, 90 plus miles an hour of exit velo. So we're over the mark on both of those, closing in on the mark there on an extreme fly ball trajectory. Only 2.82% home runs, maybe feels a little bit lucky. We know there's tons and tons of power upside for the Phillies. This is a homer-friendly ballpark. Kyle Schwarber's at a 15.92, I think, to lead the entire slate in the home run model today. So definitely some danger for Lucas Giolito here. It's not safe at all, but it is a very playable pitcher who projects into the upper middle of the board on a short slate. He's always in play, or he's very much in play today. Anyway. Luzardo, 4.29 ERA, but a 3.22 xFIP is much more appealing. 27.5% strikeouts, a 13.2% swinging strike rate, 29.8% CSW. The strikeout stuff has been tremendous. Has allowed some hard hits, some exit velo, but not bad on barrels. The launch angle's reasonable. Sub 2% home runs is maybe a little bit lucky, but it's realistic-ish. Should probably be 2.5, somewhere around there for a real number. But he's been very good overall this season. A couple earned run opportunities gotten away from him, but I'm much more intrigued by the strikeout stuff going up against a Boston lineup with a 23.4% strikeout rate that on the average is bolstered by that 7.7%. If we're focusing on these hitters, leave out the Yoshida number and the Ceddanne Rafaela number, everybody else, 26.3% strikeouts. Some of those come down against lefties. Let me pull that real quick. Lefties, Boston. All right, so what are we looking at here? So, why can't I hate when the scroll doesn't fit. Graphs only scrolls sometimes. I realize I'm probably moving that off the screen for you guys somehow. Oh, no, I'm not. Okay, good. I'm just moving it on mine. So against lefties this season, Russ Snyder striking out 28.4% of the time, but walking 12.6, 5 home runs, a 275 ISO, of incredible slash line, and a 151 WRC plus. Duran strikes out 28.1, Story 28.2, Romy 26.4. So these numbers are not off the mark. Willier actually only striking out 17.8, but that's over only 45 plate appearances. Also only carrying a 150 ISO, a 225, 311, 375 slash line, and an 89 WRC plus. And against righties, he's one of their best bats and has tremendous power. Carlos Narvaez strikes out 20.9% in 91 plate appearances against lefties, has a solid 208 ISO, 4 home runs, solid slash line, a 140 WRC plus. Interesting bat. And then Marcelo Mayer, so far, 25 plate appearances, same-handed, striking out 36% of the time. So there are plenty of Ks here for a guy who can definitely miss bats. Luzardo, one of the most expensive guys on FanDuel. 85 is offset from Max Fried on DraftKings. Fire away, he's probably going to get a little bit popular in that spot. But I do think people will go to some of these Red Sox, and I do think maybe that renders them a little bit offset. I won't say low owned because nobody at the top of the board is going to be low owned. But maybe if it was playing against just any other team that doesn't have this platoon reputation that the Red Sox have developed a little bit lately, I think maybe he would get a little bit more attention. Sub 4 implied total for the Red Sox stands on its own, though. If we're talking about those Red Sox bats, if they go under owned, and again, depends on what you're looking at, where you're looking at it. But if we can argue that the other way, if he's getting very popular because of that cheaper than Fried price, less so over here, then I'll flip it and I will chase some Red Sox bats against, and I'll target the heavily owned pitcher who is good, but can also get got. 4.29 ERA. He's given up some runs throughout the season. He's been tremendous. Not all of those have been his fault. Last time out, 4 earned runs, struck out 7, but allowed 2 homers. That was against the Angels. Comparable enough team. 7 innings of quality against the Giants the start before that one, but prior to that, faced the Reds, got tattooed, 5 earned runs, only lasted 2 innings, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. Has struck out exactly 7 in 4 of his last 5 starts, but that was coming off of a stretch where he struck out 10 3 times, but in the other 3 starts, he struck out either 4 or 2. 4 twice, 2 once. To say that it's been a little bit of an up and down season is maybe a little unfair. He's been mostly consistent with a couple bumps in the road is probably the right way to put it. Biggest bump came in against Milwaukee on the 31st of May, gave up 12 earned runs, only lasted 3 1/3, 2 home runs, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. Nobody's predicting that today, but maybe we can justify some Red Sox bats. At 36-28, even with the strikeouts, Ref Snyder, again, with the ability to just hit lefties extremely well and hit them for power that is not characteristic of who this guy is. Definitely interested. 11.4% barrels, 53.2% hard hits, over 132, mostly against left-handed plate appearances. Love the upside there. Cheap bat at the top. He's going to be popular within anybody that rosters Red Sox, though. He will be one of the most popular Red Sox among Red Sox stacks and just full stop in one-off roles. Duran, 43,000. I'll continue to take shots. He's having a bad season overall and loses a little quality lefty. But if they're going to stick him in that spot in the lineup, I will be interested, and he'll probably be lower owned than some of the righties around him. Romy hits the ball extremely, extremely hard. 5 home runs, a 299, 335, 532 slash line with a 234 ISO, 16.5% barrels, 69% hard hit, 60.9% hard hits. Should be able to say that number. Obviously, I had the other one stuck in my head for reasons. 167 very good plate appearances also, again, mostly against lefties, although he picked up a bunch of opportunities just because he was going so well against righties as well. Trevor Story at 39-32, 15 homers, 17 steals, maintaining quality. Just a 294 on base, just a 153 ISO, just an 89 WRC plus. But when it comes to counting stats, we're getting what we need for him to just be a DFS asset. I don't really care if he's not all that valuable for real baseball, as long as he's hitting homers, stealing bases, scoring runs, and driving runs in. That works. 10.4% barrels, 47.6% hard hits. Yeah, there's nothing at all predictive about run scoring and RBIs, as we've talked about a bunch. But if we're going to this team with him in the heart of the lineup, that's an ideal spot. And he's very affordable, especially on DK. That's an offset price from where he is on FanDuel. Yoshida, pretty cheap on both sites, 3,200. 26 pretty inept plate appearances so far, but he's a lot better than that. Even lefty-lefty, if I'm going Red Sox, again, if it diminishes his popularity because of the slow start in his handful of plate appearances and the lefty-lefty, so much the better for a guy that I know is very capable. If they chase Luzardo in the third, fourth with a bunch of runs, then we get the upside of just a team that's cruising against the bullpen and some weak arms out of the back of the pen. I'll take that. Rafael at 41, 3,000, multi-position on both sides, 14 homers, 14 steals, a 199 ISO, hitting the ball very, very hard all year long. Been a very strong step forward for Ceddanne Rafael. He's cut strikeout by 8 points, walking a little bit more while still not walking a lot, but you get a ton of high-quality bat on ball out of this guy now. He's having a very good season, 111 WRC+. Again, Willier a little bit more problematic against lefties, loses a lot of quality here, but if we can pick up 2 plate appearances against right-handed pitching out of the bullpen later on, I will take the shot at 45, and especially at 29 on FanDuel. That's a little light. 20 home runs in 314 plate appearances, a 253 ISO, 13% barrels. Narvaez, I just talked about the quality against lefties. I like the upside for him as a cheap catcher bat, 3,500, but again, all the catchers on DK today are kind of inexpensive. JT Realmuto on the other side of this one, 3,400. And then Marcelo Mayer might be the dead spot in the lineup against the lefty today. Has not shown much success, strikes out way too much, but the kid's good. Puts good bat on ball when he makes contact. I imagine at least a couple of those batted ball events against lefties. Do I have that as a split? I don't think they have split out StatCast right now, right? Yeah, not on graphs. I'm not going to go hunting for it. Kid's got talent. Is very affordable. As a spot filler, you can absolutely get some Mayer into your Red Sox stacks, but he's not that appealing. Loses a little luster today. John says, trade idea. Jose Ramirez to the Cubs for 3 top 10 prospects. I don't think that's enough. R. Jones says, is a guard saying, no, thank you. What do we got on that deal? 3 more years at 21, 23, and 25 mil for his age 33, 34, and 35 season. I mean, if you're the Guardians and you're going full on rebuild and just pulling the trigger, then sure, this is actually probably the deadline you want to trade him at, or this offseason. And I think that's how you would maximize value, giving out 3 seasons. And for a guy with his skill set, especially a guy who gets his home runs out of not necessarily destroying the baseball consistently with his 8-ish% barrel, his 30 upper 30s hard hit rate every year, but still 30-ish home runs. That's one that there might be some longevity through those 3 seasons, but you're going to eventually hit the decline, and it's likely to come in one of these 3 seasons, especially on the speed side as far as his stolen bases go. So, yeah, I think they could probably maximize value if they did pull that trigger soon. Doesn't have to be now. And I think they have, the idea of being competitive still. They're what? Exactly 500, 8.5 back in the division from the Tigers, but they're second place in that division. So, I mean, obviously they can compete in the Central. Couple few games back of the second wild card, I'm assuming. Just eyeballing this. They're behind most of the AL East and half of the AL West. But still, they've got the idea of competing. Did I say I was going to get us in and out in about an hour? I think we've been on for an hour already. On the second game. Yeah, I mean, Casey, Ballesteros, Rojas, Alcantara. I think I need 3 of the top 5, if I'm being honest. They've got a lot of about to get here kind of talent, the Cubs. So you could fast track a rebuild if you made a big trade like that with them. There's a couple kids that could probably pop into the show now. Yeah, I probably want all 3 of Owen Casey, Moises Ballesteros, and Kevin Alcantara in that. If I can get all 3 of those guys, maybe an arm somewhere along the way. Can I get Horton in that deal? If I could do that, maybe. Yeah, tons of playoff teams need an upgrade at third base, no doubt about it. If he was on the market, the Yankees would be banging down their door. There's plenty of teams that would be interested. There are also, though, a handful of third basemen that are going to be available. We talked about Ryan McMahon's going to be wearing different colors very, very soon. A lot of smoke around the Eugenio Suarez fire. Anyway, Phillies, they're down there, third baseman right now. Alec Bohm on the IL. Trey Turner up at the top of their lineup going up against Giolito. Nothing not to like about the Phils with all the contact that Giolito can allow. Again, getting a little bit lucky with that home run number. He's not bad at all. They're quite good. I lean Phillies, so does that Vegas total at 4.63 implied. They're expensive up top. Them, the Yanks, couple of expensive teams while everybody else is cheap. Should be easy enough to combine whatever you want bats-wise, especially with pitching as cheap as it is today. Turner at 54.36, not problematic for a guy slashing 288, 345, 426 with a 115 WRC plus, 11 homers and 25 steals. Schwarb's on a tear, 33 home runs, monster all-star performance, a 310 ISO on the season, a 558 slug, a 421 xWOBA, 18.3% barrel, 59.4% hard hits. Ridiculous power upside. Don't have to sell you any shares of Kyle Schwarber, I don't think. Bryce Harper at 52-38, 13 home runs from him on the season, a 224 ISO. You could argue with the home run total over 323 plate appearances, but it's not like the power output has been bad. It's not like he doesn't have a 144 WRC plus, a 393 xWOBA, 51% hard hits. He's ridiculous. Maybe we've gotten a few fewer home runs than we would want. Maybe we want Bryce Harper hitting for a little bit better average, but that is a star caliber line any way you slice it. He's awesome. 52-38, arguably a little bit cheap on DraftKings. Should probably be 55 plus on this slate. Nicky Castellanos at 43, 3,000, entirely affordable. One of his better years, honestly. 270, 311, 427, just a 103 WRC plus, but a 330 xWOBA, 12 home runs on the board, hitting the ball squarely, getting on base somewhat effectively, 20.2% Ks, 5.4% walks. So we're getting a lot of premium contact, a lot of contact in general out of him. Brendan Marsh in the 6th spot is interesting there. I'll take him 6. I like him when he's hitting 9th. We talk about that a lot, given his skills at getting on base in a typical season. This year, 318 on base, only 3 home runs over 245 plate appearances. Still has a very interesting 47.5% hard hit rate, a 325 xWOBA under the covers, but kind of underperforming the talent overall this year. Does typically strike out quite a bit, but also draws a lot of walks. This year, the walks are down a little bit, but so are the Ks. It's been an interesting, not good, but interesting season. If he puts it all together the last 2 months, there's big time upside. Any given slate, big time upside. 3,026 against a gettable enough righty. Max Kepler, believe Max hit his 11th home run yesterday. He's got 11. I think that came yesterday. 165 ISO, 88 WRC plus. It's off the mark for what we expect from Max Kepler over the years in a healthy season. This has not been an entirely healthy season, but he's made 328 plate appearances, slashing just 207, 305, 372. Does have that nice 10.8% barrel, the 48.1% hard hits that's reminiscent of his better years. Seasons past, last year it was kind of a wash. 399 mediocre plate appearances, hit for a little bit better average last year, but no power. 24 home runs back in 2023, just 9 in 2022, but other seasons with more power prior to that. So the power oddly comes and goes with Max Kepler. I don't know what Max Fried hits for power. Actually, we could probably check. That would be a waste of time. I'm not going to go do that. I grabbed the mouse and I moved my thing up to the Fangraphs tab and then I stopped myself. I'll check Max Fried's batting numbers later. But yeah, Max Kepler here, definitely at worst interesting. 6.01 kind of stands out among these hitters at the bottom of the Phil's lineup as well for just power upside. I skipped over Real Muto. 3,400 in the heart of the lineup at the catcher position on DraftKings is crazy interesting. And at 2,900, play him in tandem with Bryce Harper on the FanDuel slate. I like the upside there. He's slashing 267, 321, 378, just a 95 WRC plus, but he still does hit the ball very hard. 8.2% barrels, 44.8% hard hits. Reasonable on the strikeout and walk numbers, right in line with expectations from previous seasons. A little bit of maybe misfortune baked into some of the underperformance here. It's also kind of coming back down the mountain, but 6 stolen bases. You can get it done on the right day with some power, with some wheels. Love the upside for Real Muto. Probably going to be a little bit popular on DK, more so than on FanDuel anyway. Edmundo Sosa and Bryson Stott are incredibly playable pieces down the bottom of the lineup. Hopefully Stott goes a little bit underowned. 228, 301, 325, a disappointing year so far. 6 homers, 14 steals. No real standout attributes outside of not really striking out that much, drawing some walks. He's been better. Last year, 11 homers, 32 steals, still only an 88 WRC plus, an underwhelming slash line, but inarguably better over those 571 plate appearances. Reasonably priced at 39, 3,000, and then multi-position Edmundo. Not bad. 273, 320, 410, 3 homers, 102 WRC plus, over 152 chances. Technically, the best player in the bottom 5 this season. I consider him mostly a mix and match guy, but reasonable bat on ball skills going up against a guy who's going to not necessarily blow him away as far as swing and miss stuff. So there should be some contact available for the Phils. I'm going to go. Both pitchers are mandatory if you're building more than one lineup. But Luzardo, Phillies bats, Giolito, Red Sox bats. 4 corners game for sure, though. I'm telling you, Austin, thank you again for mentioning. 11 subs from 1,000. We're so close. It's been such a climb. Appreciate everybody who's been here all along. Appreciate everybody who's walking in the door for the first time now. There's a little subscription thing down there. Just click on that. If you haven't hit the little thumbs up guy, you can hit that. On your way down there, there's a link to the free Discord. There's also links to the various components of the projections, the home run model, et cetera, for this slate tonight. You'll notice the new feature in there is just this dashboard laid out for you on the website, the game-by-game snapshots. Going to do it with the probable lineups for you every day so that you have basically these boards to look at in static form for the projected lineups at the beginning of the day. See all the stats updated on a daily basis right next to price, positioning, projection, exactly what you're seeing on your screen here. Yankees bats, 4.60 implied total going up against Chris Bassett. Blue Jays coming back the other way. It's just a 4 against Max Fried. I think it's a day where we can maybe rely on some Yankees pitching, 9,800, 9,600 for Max. The only question mark I have, like I said at the beginning of the show, is what does that finger look like? What's the blister issue looking like? That was 2 weeks ago, right before the All-Star break. So presumably he's fine. But if it flares up, that's one thing. If it's just still a little bit of a bothersome spot, that's another thing. So a little bit of concern there. Projects out just fine, but I did temper that projection slightly. Not a major impact, but he would be out another point and change ahead of the field had I left it alone. 23.1% strikeouts over 122 innings in 20 starts this season. That's including the short start. In his last one, only went 3 innings. Was off to a bad start, but the blister explains that. But he's had a tremendous year. Pitches deep into ball games typically. So full go Max Fried, I'm very interested. 2.43 ERA, a 3.38 xFIP, phenomenal strikeout to walk rate, even with a good, not great strikeout rate at 23.1%. Misses bats 10.5% and an 8.1 degree average launch. So he keeps the ball down effectively. That 1.84% home runs is very, very real. He induces weak and medium contact with frequency, 36.8% hard hits, only 87.5 miles an hour of exit velo. He's tremendous. It's a good Blue Jays lineup. They've got a lot of hit tool. They've got a lot of sequencing capability. They've got a moderate amount of power. It's a really interesting matchup. They're very low strikeout, which has an impact on Max a little bit. But I love his upside, and if he goes under owned for this slate, I'm all over that spot. Going the other way at 78.83, you got to embrace some Chris Bassett. Even against the Yanks, it's a high, high danger spot. Vegas is shouting that at us with that 4.60 implied total, but Bassett's been mostly good this year. 3.89 ERA at 3.67 xFIP, 22.2% strikeouts against 5.9% walk is also a pretty decent strikeout to walk ratio. Comes on 9.9% swinging, a little bit lighter than Max, but not all that dissimilar. A better CSW by 3/100ths of a point. Similar as far as the premium contact numbers, 7.6% barrels, only 34.3% hard hits, 86.6 miles an hour of exit velo. He's inducing more weak and medium contact and keeping the ball to just a 10.6 degree average launch. Entirely reasonable 2.65% home run rate. So you can see he's having an impact on some Yankees home run numbers. Only Aaron Judge is above the magic number. Jazz Chisholm's not. Giancarlo Stanton would be, but he's not in the lineup. The Anthony Volpe, JC Escada, Oswald Peraza stretch of the lineup there really is not appealing in any way, shape, or form, and not nice to see as a Yankee fan really wanting to win this game in a tight AL East race. That's really ugly. Should help Chris Bassett for sure. No Giancarlo, no Wells. Ben Rice in the heart of the lineup at 4,000, 3,100. Lefty thumper, but look at Rice's numbers overall. It's down to 236, 327, 475, 124 WRC plus, and still a tremendous 404 XWOB, a 239 ISO, 15 home runs is fine, 15% barrels. He hits the ball very, very hard. And he's very capable of getting on base, but he has been in decline for sure after that hot start. 20.3% strikeouts is great, 9.2% walks. Still a good player, reasonably priced at 4,000 on DraftKings, 31 on FanDuel, but he's plummeted quite a bit. Grisham in the top spot for the Yankees, 41-28, 17 home runs on the board. Holds down that leadoff spot effectively. At worst, he's a good correlated scoring option in connection with Cody Bellinger, Aaron Judge. The Yankees are outfield heavy in a lot of ways, though. So if I'm taking Bellinger in the outfield, if I'm taking Judge in the outfield, I might want Jason Dominguez in there, or I might want an outfielder from another team. Grisham is easily bypassed in these Yankee stacks. that makes him A, easy to bypass, but also B, maybe a little bit interesting because people are going to be bypassing him. So depends on how you want to look at that. Either way, very much in play. Belly at 53-35, having a great year. 285, 336, 508, 223 ISO, 18 home runs, a 133 WRC plus. Solid game yesterday after we talked about him after he was left out of the lineup by mistake the day before. 65-48 for Aaron Judge, perfectly reasonable for him. 36 homers, monster slash, 211 WRC plus. Enough said. Jazz at 55-36 has 18 homers and 10 steals, hits the ball very hard, 17.4% barrels, 259 ISO, a monster 390 xWOBA, justifying everything about him. I think those prices are about perfect for Jazz. 55-36. That works. Dominguez at 38 is cheap. 29 on FanDuel. Works. He's still getting on in a 329 clip. He hit a little bit of a slide lately. 254, 329, 398. Needs to start hitting the ball hard again. Or needs to start capitalizing, I should say, on his hard hits. Turn more of the good swings into barrels. Gain a little launch angle. Start getting the ball up and out of the ballpark a little bit more. You can see just a 3.57 in the home run model today. This is a kid they were expecting to be kind of a big-time power bat. One of the worst defensive left fielders I've ever seen in my life. Which is another reason he really needs to start hitting a little better. Let's see. What's this last little stretch look like? Yeah, had been going all right. And then this last 39 plate appearances. Oops. Or these last 39 plate appearances. Actually, I'll even stretch it. Nah, I'll take that one off the board because he hit 2 home runs that day. So his last 9 games, 39 plate appearances, 135, 179, 162, a -6 WRC plus, a .027 ISO, 4 runs scored, 1 RBI, caught stealing once, 35.9% strikeouts, most concerningly, or additionally concerningly. It's been a bumpy week and change, but the kid is good. We're not going to write him off because of that. That was coming off a 2 home run game. For the 70 plate appearances immediately prior to that, call it about 2.5 weeks. 359, 400, 547, a 164 WRC plus, a 188 ISO, 22.9% strikeout, 7.1% walks. Just 2 home runs, but a lot of DFS scoring events. He stole 6 bases in that stretch. That's going back to. Oh, that gets back. Oh, yeah. It starts on July 4th and goes back to June 13th, that stretch. So he had a really good end of June, okay beginning of July, and just has been a little bit off the last couple of weeks, or the last 10 days. There's still a lot of talent there at 3,800, 2,900. So if people bypass him, just makes him more interesting. Volpe at 35, 3,000 is a spot filler at short at best. You do get good contact when he happens to make contact. 12 home runs, 10 stolen bases, a 179 ISO, 13 points below average for via WRC plus. It's not a lot there, but he's more playable than Escada and Ozzy Peraza put together. Pair of home runs for Escada so far. Not much to speak of as a hitter. 87 WRC plus, and Peraza's been even worse, despite coming up. And I keep talking about it because he remains cheap, second and third base eligible, and shortstop to that on FanDuel. Just by virtue of being in the Yankees lineup and wrapping around to these guys up at the top, he can find value from time to time. It's just been very infrequent. Should be better than he is based on who he was supposed to be coming up, but has just never delivered in the major leagues. On the Blue Jays side, Davis Schneider in the leadoff role against the lefty, 3,000, 2,500. A little bit of pop in his bat, 5 home runs and a 15.4% barrel over 100 plate appearances, a 222 ISO. He's been good in the limited opportunities. At worst, it's a cheap bat and a right-handed bat that you can pop in at second base on FanDuel, I'll add, ahead of George Springer, Vladdy Guerrero, the bats that you really want from this team. Springer, Guerrero, 14.1, 12.9% barrels respectively, 17 and 13 home runs. Springer's having a great year, 143 WRC plus. Vladdy's right there at a 134 WRC plus. We've talked about the brief power outage that Vladdy's been going through, but the setup for his monster last 2 months of the season to right the ship as far as that goes. Everything else about his season has been tremendous. You absolutely play Vladdy Guerrero at 5,000 on DraftKings, 32 on FanDuel. He's way too cheap, even against Max Fried, who is a great limiter of runs and power. There's upside for Vladdy Guerrero if nobody else is going to him at those prices. Bo Bichette at 44, 3,000. Solid season out of him, 281, 322, 443. Was flailing at Cam Schlittler's aggressive up in the zone fastballs a little bit early yesterday. Schlittler was all right yesterday. When he strike out 4 but gave up 4 runs or something like that. Or that was that yesterday or 2 days ago? Whenever it was. We weren't on him, though. We warned ourselves off that spot. The other one we didn't talk about, Mizorowski, was dominating and came out after, 3 2/3, 60-some-odd pitches? Managing that arm. That's going to be problematic as far as projecting him, as far as using him going forward for DFS, for season long. Kind of glad I traded him for Chris Sanchez's complete game shutout, 12 strikeout game yesterday. Alejandro Kirk's having a great year, 39-28, 304, 360, 409, 7 home runs. Not fully capitalizing on the premium contact that he makes. Just a 106 ISO and 7 home runs. Really flies in the face of that. But doesn't really matter. He's creating runs. Great, 116 WRC plus. He got that 366 ISO that is created somewhat by that. Only 39. Catchers are cheap today anyway, but that's a really interesting one in the heart of this Blue Jays lineup. Addison Barger had a decent day yesterday. Didn't hit the home run that we were looking for, but a solid day anyway. Drove in 2 runs early in the game. 14 home runs on the year, a 274, 325, 517 slash in only 284 plate appearances. That's a really, really interesting hitter. Even lefty against Max Fried here. If they chase Fried early, Fried happens to develop a blister again, so on and so forth. There's plenty of opportunity for Barger. Ernie Clement, very good hit tool for an affordable price. Move him around the board, multi-position on both sides. Miles Straw, Leo Jimenez, a little bit underwhelming. Down lineup. Straw, not much of a bat. Steals you the occasional base if he happens to get on. Jimenez hasn't done much of anything. Max Fried, Yankees bats. Chris Bassett, and then Blue Jays bats. Wouldn't shock me if the Jays had an okay day, though. What's up, my lanes? Doing pretty well. How you doing? How's your Wednesday going? How's your week going? Hopefully good. So the White Sox, by far the worst team on the board. 374 implied total. Means they'll probably destroy Taj Bradley today and run away with the slate in the contrarian way. I do think you go to them a little bit. If you're building a bunch of lineups, especially if you're playing in large field tournaments, especially, they're on the board. There's just enough there. They're facing a gettable enough pitcher, even for them. It's not pretty, but on a short slate like this will be the day where people actually go there and they don't deliver now. But Taj coming in with a 4.35 ERA, a 4.11 xFIP, just 20.7% strikeouts, way too high, 8.9% walk rate. Does have decent stuff, does have the ability to break off very, very good starts against better teams. 6% barrels, only 9.1 degree average launch. Good at keeping the ball in the yard, suppressing premium contact, just a 2.61% home run rate. Even in this ballpark, even with this in play, there's a lot of upside going up against a team that maxes out at 3 guys in double-digit home runs, maxes out at 12 homers, nobody with a 200 ISO, 4 guys in the lineup with a 100-plus WRC plus, including 2 of them exactly at 100. Tons and tons of upside for Taj on the right day, especially at 7,000. At 9,000 on FanDuel, very much in play. He projects out aggressively among the top starters of the day. My hope is we get him a lot lower owned on FanDuel than the 60 or so % popularity he's going to have on DK at that price. Ludicrously popular on DK. Gives you more reason to consider some White Sox on DK. I absolutely would consider have some Taj, but big undercut to that kind of ownership. Even if you're saying, I'm going to cut the ownership in half, you're talking about 25, 30% Taj in your lineups. Give the other half to the field. Grab some White Sox. You don't have to use the White Sox in every one of those lineups that you didn't use Taj in that the field did. But in a small chunk of them, in an appreciable chunk of them, definitely. Mike Tauchman at the top of the lineup, 36, 3,000 across sites. We talked about Tauchman a lot. He gets on base like crazy. 376 on base so far this year in 202 plate appearances. That's just who he is. 357 over 350 last year. 363 over 401 the year before. Didn't play the year before that, or maybe played in AAA. Can't say his name without saying the word journeyman. That's who he is. But he gets on base. He creates runs. 135 WRC plus, despite the fact that everybody else who he relies on to drive him in and everything just completely sucks. This guy is just decent. 3,600, 3,000. Easy to afford. He's even at a 6.6 in the home run model today. He's at 5 on the season, a 171 ISO. Very solid premium contact numbers. Tauchman's a reasonable option to start this lineup off. Chase Meadroth at 36.28. 251, 332, 311. Had that 4 for 5 with 3 doubles day the other day, but only scored 1 run that we talked about. An interesting hit tool. He really cratered for a while there, but hopefully there's some signs of life. 320 okay plate appearances in his rookie season overall. Just 2 home runs, but 11 stolen bases. Still, the aggregate 332 on base over that whole stretch, dip included, is not bad. It's just the average looks a lot uglier than it used to. 3,200, 2,900 for Benintendi. As much as I don't like Andrew Benintendi, I think at those prices against Taj, if you're going White Sox, he's a key bat for you. 11 home runs, a 191 ISO. He's been, oddly, one of their 2 good power bats this season. That doesn't make him good. Doesn't really make me want to roster him. But if I'm going there, you kind of have to, given the spot in the lineup and the fact that he's not being taxed for what he's already done, at least. Miguel Vargas, I do think, is a little bit maybe better than Andrew Benintendi, although, you know, you go back and forth. 12 home runs for him, a 182 ISO and 97 WRC plus. Not good, but one of the better White Sox. Kyle Teal is interesting. Solid premium contact, $3,000 catcher. Again, every single catcher on this slate is cheap, but he's an interesting one. Hits in the middle of this lineup, going to be under-owned for the opportunity. Solid striker of the baseball. 96 okay plate appearances. What I like a lot is the 368 on base, the 14.6% walk rate. He's a very discerning hitter so far. Comes with 29.2% strikeouts. He needs to learn how to actually make contact with the ball and deliver on some of that premium contact that he's capable of making. Right at league average WRC plus, a 373 xWOBA. That's an interesting hitter. Once it comes around, it's going to be a really good bat. Lubob, 35, 3,000. It'd be interesting to see what happens to him at the deadline. 10 home runs, 25 steals. A really terrible season overall. Back to full health. Always going to be interesting. Always going to include him in my White Sox stacks if I'm building them. 26, 25 for Colson Montgomery. He's really interesting. 5.33 in your home run model. He's got 1 in his 53 plate appearances. Not a bad slash line. 261, 346, 391. It's all right. Need a little bit more power out of him. Need him to barrel a ball eventually. 0 barrels and a 21.2% hard hit rate over 53 plate appearances is not paying the bills, but he is walking a lot at an 11.3% rate, striking out quite a bit, but that's less of a concern. I like the upside there, and the kid is a premium prospect coming up through the system. We talked about him when he first arrived, but just to put some numbers back on it for you guys. In 261 minor league plate appearances, or 242 AAA plate appearances this year, 11 home runs, a 218 ISO, an atrocious slash line, just 218, 298, 435, but was mashing the ball. Last season in 573 minor league plate appearances, or AAA plate appearances, 18 homers, 8 stolen bases, 167 ISO is a little bit of a letdown. 214, 329, 381 is a big letdown. That was with a promotion, though. That was his first experience at AAA. Played the whole season there as a 22-year-old. So that's kind of within expectation. Season before that, 294 plate appearances from high A into double A. 4 homers, 244. Wait, no, that's the double A line. 8 home runs, 287, 455, 484. A 197 ISO overall, but took a little bit of a dip in the 167 AA plate appearances as a 21-year-old. So each time he's gotten promoted up, he's struggled a little bit finding his footing, but he's 23. He's a young 23 years, 4 months, and 26 days, in fact. So a lot of upside to come out of Colson Montgomery. Very cheap for today's slate against a gettable enough pitcher. And then Josh Rojas and Brooks Baldwin are down the bottom of the lineup, and they're probably lucky to be wearing Major League Baseball uniforms. Chandler Simpson at 45.29 atop the Rays lineup. They're going up against Jonathan Cannon, who is a pretty much a nothing pitcher. I guess we got to talk about him because it's such a short slate. 84 innings in 14 starts. He's got a 17.1% strikeout against 7.9% walks. A 4.18 ERA is not completely terrible, but that 4.78 xFIP is pretty terrible. And that's his real number. 8.2% swinging strikes, 22.8% CSW. He doesn't throw strikes. He doesn't induce swinging strikes. Gives up way too many opportunities with that 1.38 whip. Pretty lucky to be where he is as far as the earned runs go, especially 9.2% barrels, 43.9% hard hits. There's power available. There's everything the Rays need to capitalize on this spot. I assume we have this lineup. We do. Chandler Simpson stole 3 bases yesterday. That is his skill set in a nutshell. Dude's got a great hit tool, reaches first base effectively, ideal leadoff bat as long as he can continue to get on base in the major leagues. Does a lot of it via BABIP. He's only walking 5% of the time, but only strikes out 9% of the time. And those are numbers that are reminiscent of his minor league numbers. 301, 333, 345 to start out. He has stolen 30 bases in 222 plate appearances. He stole 100 plus bases in the minor leagues last year. Some of us picked him up on the last day of last season so that they could have him for $1 this season, and are very, very glad we did. Johnny Diaz at 47.32 is an asset. Cheap on FanDuel. That FanDuel price is a little bit lower than that DraftKings price. 10.2% barrels, 53.6% hard hits, 16 homers, 290, 349, 469 slash, a 371 xWOBA, 127 WRC plus. Just sucks that you have the positional conflict with these two as well. John D and Jonathan Aranda on this team, and then Kyle Manzardo and Carlos Santana on the other one. So as you're thinking through the 10 available teams and you're thinking it through positionally, which guys from which teams to stack, which will be more popular, on both of those teams, you'll have a very capable lower-owned first baseman. Between these two, I'm not sure which one it's going to be. I can check where they're projected, but I won't. It'll take too much time. Just know that you'll have the opportunity to say, all right, I'm going to go to that stack, maybe get a little bit cheaper, maybe get a little bit lower owned on the DraftKings slate by going to, let's say, Jonathan Aranda over Johnny Diaz for 200 less. That might not be the case. Diaz has hit for more power, but Aranda's created more runs, hits the ball a little bit harder. They both hit the ball reliably hard. They've both been tremendous at getting to first base, 349 and 395 on base percentages. Regardless, both those dudes hit ahead of Junior Caminero and all his power upside. Junior's got 25 home runs on the season, a 252 ISO, 512 slug, a 121 WRC plus. Kid can mash, and we're throwing him up against Jonathan Cannon with all those opportunities to drive in runs ahead of him. Love that spot. 35 on FanDuel, 51 on DraftKings. I would argue he's not expensive enough. Josh Lowe, 47.29. Mediocre season this year. I showed you the numbers for him from seasons past yesterday. Good season a couple years ago. Good player. Overpriced, I would say, on DraftKings at 47. But that'll probably keep him lower owned by comparison to some of the guys around him in this lineup. So that does give him a little bit of appeal. At that price, he'll be lower owned than other outfielders in other stacks you might be getting to. So again, building with him in your Rays stacks makes some sense despite that kind of expensive price. 20.2% strikeouts, 9.2% walks. So he's effective in those areas, a 41.9% hard hit. You can see the big dip in barrels. That's what's kind of cost him. Just 6 homers, 6 stolen bases, and 93 WRC plus. But it's still a good player. You can justify it with the 338 xWOBA a little bit. Mangum for 43.28, especially on this slate, entirely playable. Down to 297, finally cracked through the 300 line. 297, 337, 376. I can't argue with the season he's had. He's been effective. 14 stolen bases. Does not hit the ball hard. 298 xWOBA, 0.079 ISO. Still at a 102 WRC plus. I'm going to wager that falls below 100 by the end of the year. Danny Jansen at 32.28, 11 home runs, capable enough catcher bat. Mix and match quality, though, not exactly high quality. And since every catcher is cheap on this slate, you don't really gain by going to him over another better cheap catcher, but he's very much in this lineup and can capitalize on a good day facing the worst pitcher. Again, the Rays at a 5.37, though, going to be the most popular team on the slate. Taylor Walls at 3,125, mix and match quality with a lot of stolen base upside. Same thing with Jose Caballero, 4,000 to 2,700. 4-position eligible on FanDuel is nice. Move around the board a lot. He's stolen 32 bases and 254 chances. Between him and Chandler Simpson, this team is ridiculous for speed. Rays bats, Taj, White Sox bats, and then really you don't think you ought to play Jonathan Cannon. Doesn't seem like the day. Last game up. See if we got the A's lineup. We sure do. And of course, it gives us our most challenging pitching spot to talk about. If you've ever been here before, you know that I don't like Patrick Corbin. You know that I like targeting this pitcher with bats. You also know that that has not really worked out for us this year. Some of it is still coming through on the model, but it's been more tempered in, I would say, the last month or so. We're starting to normalize back the other way toward like this effective or more effective version of Corbin. Just 7.9% barrels allowed this year, 37.8% hard hits, 89.1 miles an hour of exit velo. Some home runs allowed for sure. You can still get them for power. Last year was managing home runs effectively as well, but was doing it while giving up a ton of premium contact. So it wasn't really all that believable. Stuff Plus hated his arsenal. He pitched to a 5.62 ERA. Year before, 4.18. I believe that was a 5 back that year. Oh no, 3.79 that year. I think he had a 5 in there somewhere. It was probably 21. But he's been really bad in recent years and kind of pulled things together this year. It's not like he's a standout, just 19.3% strikeouts, a 3.91 ERA, but a 4.07 xFIP, but those are decent enough numbers. 10.7% swinging. On a slate like this, against a team with a 23.2% strikeout rate, even with all the power that the Athletics have, Pat Corbin here is on the board. I almost called him Max. Max Fried is much more on the board. This lefty is on the board. Uncomfortably so. The lefty on the other side of this game is more uncomfortable and also on the board. 19.4% strikeout rate, 6% walks. If we're playing Corbin with worse numbers than those, got to consider Sears. 5.13 ERA, a 4.76 xFIP. Corbin's been better for runs. Sears has been worse for power, 4.84% home run rate. Comes on not entirely dissimilar premium contact numbers, just a little bit more launch angle there. Maybe a little happenstance baked in. In years past, been roughly similar. 32 starts apiece last year. Sears threw more innings. 1/10 of a point fewer strikeouts, fewer walks though. Worse xFIP, better ERA. These are very similar pitchers. Similar numbers in 2023. Sears was better than him for strikeouts, 21.9% on 11.3% swinging that year. That was a year where he was on and off capable. I'll always maintain that you can win a DFS slate with a pitcher like JP Sears. 3 starts back on the 4th of July, faced the Giants, went 6, 3-hitter, no runs, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. You win a slate with JP Sears, he does that today. Absolutely. It's 63. On FanDuel at 76. He's in my placeholder lineup on FanDuel right now. He was the path to getting the bat combination that I wanted. I'm not happy about it. I'm not comfortable about it. I'm not comfortable with it. Against Cleveland last time out in Cleveland, 4 innings, 6 earned runs, 7 runs total on 6 hits, 2 home runs allowed, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. That is very much in the cards today. Start before that was okay. 5 innings in Atlanta, 3 earned runs, gave up a homer, but struck out 6 and walked 0, 4 hits allowed. It's fine. 5 2/3 against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, 2 hits, no runs, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. It's effective. Bumpy one and a handful of starts before that. The only big meltdown he's had this year, though, 9 earned runs at Houston over 3 1/3 back on May 27th. That was coming off of 6 earned runs. Maybe it was a stretch. 9, 6, and 4 earned runs in 3 straight starts through the mid to end of May. Outside of that, hasn't been bad. You can get away with it on a 5-gamer. Not happy about having to say that. Top of the A's, 3,800, 2,800 for Jacob Wilson, who was quite a bit more expensive than that, if memory serves, just recently. 315, 357, 445. A little bit of a slide as far as his average goes. but a tremendous, tremendous hit tool. Everything we saw from this kid was very real. That is who he is. For the month of July, though, it is who he's not. 140, 178, 233 July. That'll bring your average down in a hurry. Stretch that back to June 15th. Similar. 172, 234, 253. If you go all the way back, you add 15 more days onto that, though, and bring it to the back to June 1st. It normalizes back up to 268, 309, 366. Still light for him because of the atrocious month and a half. But he is very much a 300-ish hitter in the major leagues. Not a big bat, but very low strikeout, low walk, frequency of contact. Think Luis Sarai, Stephen Kwan type guy. Brent Rooker at 44-34 has gotten quite a bit too cheap on DraftKings. 15.1% barrels, 47.8% hard hits, 21 home runs, a tremendous slash line, a 231 ISO, a 133 WRC plus. I don't really understand why he's now in the low fours. 34 on FanDuel is much more correct. Kurtz at 48-37 has been out hitting Brent Rooker and everybody else. 19 home runs in 256 plate appearances. He's almost at Brent Rooker's total. 335 ISO, a 161 WRC plus. Still affordable at 48-37. I'm pretty sure he should be in the mid fives on DraftKings. You're saving about 1,000, honestly. Against Patty Corbin, even lefty. What's he done lefty-left, let's say? And keep in mind, if we get to Corbin today, we get major upside against the pen. 4 of his 19 home runs have come same-handed this year, so not ineffective. That's in 66 plate appearances. 2 doubles with that. 237 ISO over those 66 plate appearances against same-handed. Strikes out a lot, 36.4%. Strikeouts only, walks 6.1%. A 77 WRC plus, slashing 203, 242, 441. Significantly better against righties. But if I'm going to Kurtz, I really only want the power, or only really care about the power, and that's entirely intact. So let other people skip them. I will take it. I like that upside. Shea Langoliers at 38-29, 14 home runs, a good season out of him, striking out a little bit less than he used to. Miguel Andujar is an interesting enough hit tool at third base and in the outfield, 27 from 24 across sites, 3 positions on FanDuel. Very cheap, doesn't hit the ball hard, but is hitting for average. He's getting on base at an okay 316 clip, just a 282 xWOBA. Maybe it's all illusory, but he's been doing it. He's been doing it fairly effectively, and he's very, very cheap. If you were paying any kind of tax at all, I'd be like, nah, Miguel Andujar overperforming. We don't want him, but that's not the case. He's easy to roster. Kobe Thomas at the dead min, 21 on FanDuel, has been completely ineffective over 15 plate appearances outside of a maybe interesting 42.9% hard hit rate. In the minors this season, as a 24-year-old and mid-24, 24 and a half, 384 plate appearances, Kobe Thomas has 18 home runs in AAA. A 237 ISO. He's slashing 291, 366, 529. Are we sure that guy isn't interesting at the dead min price from the right side against Patty Corbin? Could be a big day. Could be a day where nobody else has him, and you do. I like that upside. He'll probably get a little bit of ownership there, though. Gio Urshela, never been much of a bat. Rumors to the contrary, be damned. 227, 283, 328, a 67 WRC plus, and no homers this year in 140 chances. Austin Wins, maybe a mix and match quality catcher with a little bit more than that. 6 home runs, a 280, 313, 538 slash line, 258 ISO. Monster premium contact so far for only 3,300. Again, every catcher on this slate is cheap. 24 on FanDuel seems pretty playable. 6.57 in your home run model. And then Luis Urias at the bottom of the lineup. Capable of delivering a little power against anybody, especially against the lefty who's been very homer prone over the years. 7 on the board this year in 269 chances. Everything else about his line sucks. Just think cheap home runs at second base or a 0. On the Rangers side, JP Sears is incredibly vulnerable in this spot. They come in a 4.57 implied total. That's one of the more appealing of the day. They lead off with Michael Hellman here against the lefty, 25-23. You can take or leave the Hellman shares at that price, but I like the spot in the lineup, and I like where he's I like where he's priced for the correlation. In 223 minor league plate appearances this year as a 29-year-old, he's slashing 243, 305, 431 with an 81 WRC plus, 7 home runs and 8 stolen bases. So he's not much of a baseball player, but he's hitting up there for a very cheap price ahead of Corey Seager, who I would definitely want to get to. 14 home runs for Seager. Monster upside against JP Sears. Don't care at all about the lefty-lefty in that matchup. Marcus Semien continues to come back to life. He's up to 13 home runs. He hit another one yesterday. 92 WRC plus, still a little work to do to get to league average, but he is climbing and climbing fast. 4,000, 3,000 in the third spot in this lineup. Adolis Garcia, 38, 3,000, also hit another home run yesterday. 14 for him on the year, 10 stolen bases. Not a good year, but maybe pulling things together a little bit. Has never lost the barrels and the hard hits. They've been consistent throughout these downturn years, these last 2 seasons. 3,800, 3,000 is incredibly affordable for what the ceiling on that player is. Josh Young at 34.27, you could say the same thing. 9 home runs out of him, just a 137 ISO. It's a disappointing year up and down this entire lineup. There's no hiding it, but there's a lot of talent too. Wyatt Langford's really interesting. 42 for him is cheap. 34 on FanDuel is a little bit more expensive than that, but very affordable still, especially when you can average it down with everybody else or with just cheap everything else. Everyone else in this lineup or cheap everything else from every other lineup and the pitchers. Complete sentences. 15 home runs, 15 stolen bases, a 102 WRC plus for Wyatt Langford. Super interesting. 12.5% barrels, 45.8% hard hits. Jonah Heim, a mix and match quality catcher. Every catcher's cheap, as we've been saying. Cody Freeman at 24, 2,000. Dead min price on FanDuel at third. A lot of Freemans play baseball. 350 AAA plate appearances this year. He's got a dozen home runs, 8 stolen bases, a tremendous slash line, 315, 367, 494. Creating runs 14% better than average. That'll play. It's 24 and change, 24 and a half. This team's offering you up some cheap bats. Lots to work with here. And then Ezekiel Duran, 2,100, 2,200 with 4 positions on FanDuel, 2 on DraftKings. I don't love him at the corners. I'd much rather have him at second, short, outfield. But he's playable. 40.7% hard hits in his 93 plate appearances. Pretty bad year so far. Last year, also pretty bad. Year before that, 14 homers, 8 stolen bases, 276, 324, 443, created run 7% better than average. Was downright interesting basically every day down the bottom of the lineup. It was him and Leody Taveras down there. And they would go back and forth creating DFS scoring at cheap prices and no ownership all season. Now he's just kind of a dead spot down there, but he's playable because he's super, super cheap. And that's it. That's your slate. I'll be damned. Oh, man. I think we're going to put the Rangers bats on top. I think in good conscience, I have to put Patrick Corbin second, then the A's bats, and then JP Sears. I very much consider those last 3 things equal at worst. And I really think that I should put the A's in the 2 spot, but I won't because Patrick Corbin has earned it this year. Projects out as an important piece of this slate, but I think you can tell how begrudgingly I'm doing that. My lanes, I never came back. Sorry about that. Excellent. They had an awesome day. Oh, that's great, buddy. Good to hear. Continue today with the Giants, hoping to keep the streak and momentum into tonight. All here's about this White Sox. Look, let's not go nuts. I think I talked it through to a reasonable level. And to tie it into to Monty's question there, they're going up against a super high-owned pitcher. Taj Bradley on DraftKings at that $7,000 price tag is going to be the most highly owned pitcher of the day with a bullet. He's going to be in the 60% range that Monty mentions. I don't think there's anything wrong to answer Monty's question with rostering him right with the field. My approach, and I think the correct way to go about it, would be to probably undercut the public, grab some White Sox in some of those lineups, and then take a nice spread of other positive things. Maybe you sink some of those shares into some Orioles bats. And then you've got some potentially under-owned pitching to work with. What you don't have is a direct swap price at pitcher. Your closest you can get is $7,500 Slade Ciccone against the Orioles, who I want to use against Slade Ciccone and just mentioned getting to. It's dicey once you start talking about going from Taj Bradley against the White Sox to, say, Zach Eflin against the Guardians, JP Sears against the Rangers, or especially Jonathan Cannon against the Rays. Those are three soft spots down lineup. Would play Eflin, more talented than he's been pitching this year. Would play Sears, very, very cheap, basically exactly as talented as he's looked this year. But every now and then you can get there. As Monty mentioned earlier in the show, he's had oddball success that we don't want to try and quantify or even count or factor in, but he has had some success in this ballpark and against this team over the years. So there's that to throw into the fire just as a tiebreaker. Somebody out there in the world is building one lineup and needs a tiebreaker between Zach Eflin and JP Sears when that 300 might buy you a better bet. There's your tiebreaker. All right. That's the only thing I would want to use that for. Good pitching up top. Max Fried, 98, 96. To just go to fully round things off. So if you're using the White Sox, the reason they were interesting is because you can target all of that ownership that's on Taj Bradley. And there are some moderately capable bats in that lineup. There are a couple pieces that we don't like, but can use. And Taj is a vulnerable enough pitcher. He's fairly low strikeout. Not bad as far as the power numbers go, but you can get him. And this ballpark will help. So there are positive reasons to consider the White Sox on just such a short slate. But again, it's going to be one of your lower owned teams. It's just taking contrarian angles. But I think the idea of across 150 or across, even 20 lineups, getting a few more than the field might make some sense. Max at the top, I hope, goes a little bit underowned. 96, 98 in a tough spot against the Blue Jays. Shaved down projection by me, and I think even further in some other places because he's coming off that blister issue. Didn't go on the IL or anything like that. Had the All-Star break and a couple days off to work with. They gave him some rest here to recover. But blisters can be weird for pitchers. They can recur very, very quickly. If you think about just the repetitive motion in the same spot on the finger, there have been pitchers who have been derailed for entire seasons by recurring blister issues. Not saying that's going to happen, but it is a thought. It is a reason they might just say, hey, Max, 5 good innings. We're shutting him out. Why don't you come on out? Let's hand it off to some high leverage arms. I don't think that happens, but I want to be cautious about it. And he continues to project at the top of the board anyway. But hopefully he goes under own. Lusardo, super playable, going to get more popular at 85 on DraftKings. Another reason to think that $9,800, the only expensive pitcher on the slate, Max Fried, goes a little under owned there. I can see a lot of people just immediately combining Lusardo and Bradley and Ciccone, Bradley and Giolito. So I think Max slips at least on DK. Taj is super playable. Again, would go up to and including 60% if you play that way on DraftKings. And I didn't mean play that way derisively. I think that's a very, very likely spot to deliver you a lot of fantasy points today. You're just going to get them in bunches with everybody else. So make sure you're making other moves in different places. Ciccone would play against the Orioles, but I'm heavy on the Orioles on the other side of that. 75 is a great price for his upside. He has, comparable strikeout stuff to Taj. The Orioles have been really up and down, so you can get there. No doubt about it. Same deal with Giolito against the Phils. Just a really challenging matchup, but a capable pitcher. Once upon a time, Lucas Giolito was the top pitching prospect in all of baseball. Never really got there, but has had some nice seasons along the way. Capable strikeout pitcher. Bassett's been suppressing power, keeping runs in check very similarly to Max Fried. You get him a whole lot cheaper against a free-swinging Yankees club that is more likely to push strikeouts in Chris Bassett's direction than the Blue Jays are in Max Fried's direction. That might be an underrated spot on this board. If you're choosing among the high-danger spots, Chris Bassett against my Yankees maybe better than like Giolito against the Phils. I don't know about better than Ciccone against the Orioles, but maybe comparable. Bassett on the wrong day can go very, very bad, but he's been mostly good. And if you can check the Yankees' power, especially on a day where they've got a weak bottom three, no Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup, could be a decent day to consider some Chris Bassett. At 83, he's going to probably work his way into a couple of my FanDuel lineups, I would bet. And at 78 on DraftKings, especially with Taj going crazy, Slade probably going higher than him, that's an interesting spot. I don't love targeting the Yankees, obviously, but that's a good spot. And then you hit the Corbin stretch, the Eflin. Between those bottom 4 pitchers, Corbin and Sears are, I think, the 2 most interesting. Eflin, Used to be good, but it's been really tough to see this year. Wouldn't shock me if he had a capable start at that price. But I think there's a little bit more to give the two lefties in the matchup. Don't like it going to any of those guys, but I'll have a little Corbin. I'll have a little Sears at an even cheaper price. And then Jonathan Cannon's probably the only pitcher you don't really want. 73, 6,000. Difficult to justify. It's not like there's a ton of daylight between those projections. So if you're feeling super frisky, you can go there. But he's pitching against the only team on the board that's drawing a 5+ implied total and well above 5. And he's just not that good. He does strike out, what was it, 19 and change? 17 and change. 17-1. Not even a 19% strikeout rate. Even an end of the show kind of like, if you're crazy, it just doesn't seem likely. Home run pick of the day came from that first game. If you weren't here, Mr. Jordan Westberg. Again, just to reiterate, call me crazy, but against all this contact, I'll take some of these scuffling Orioles. 3 guys above the magic number in the home run model, 2 guys in the 9s, 2 more in the 8s. And then Urias sneaking in there. I like it. I like the Orioles here. Going to go down with the Orioles ship for some reason. AL East rival. Terrible, terrible results all year long. Anyway, as Beyond the Rabbit Hole points out, we are getting towards 6 o'clock here for a 6:40 start. So let me actually get these projections up on the site for you guys to use. For those of you who are unfamiliar, we picked up a bunch of people here at the end of the show. Hit the like button if you get a chance. Subscribe to the channel when you get the chance. And check out rotoscouts.com. Access to all these projections is under $1 a day. New feature up on the site. You get this dashboard now. Not in a dynamic Microsoft Excel file. You just get screenshots of it at the beginning of the day. But all of the stats. I can't make it. Gotta do that. All of the stats you see on this board are presented for you on the website in screenshot form for the projected lineups at the beginning of the day. So you have access to all the projected lineups with their fantasy projections, their home run model numbers, and all these stats that we talk through that I consider important. People ask all the time, what do you think are the most important stats? It's these. It's the one we talk about on all these shows every day, over and over and over again. Appreciate every single one of you guys out there. Everybody who hit the like and the subscribe, I appreciate you slightly more. Everybody who subscribes over at the website, even a little bit more than that. But every single one of you guys rocks. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do. At rotoscouts on Twitter. Free Discord is linked down in the description. Come join the community. Even if you don't subscribe, even if you don't kick in a couple of bucks, under $1 a day. The Discord is free. Come hang out, talk shop, talk fantasy. We've got a bunch of different channels. There's a very active WNBA channel in there that I have nothing at all to do with. One of the guys is just providing projections every day, and guys are winning with them. We've got a very active esports channel in there that I have nothing to do with. I couldn't tell you the positions on esports are a jungler. I think that's the only one I can remember. And I have no idea what it does. That's the only thing I remember from esports from a few years ago, pandemic days. But people are covering it in our Discord just for the hell of it, helping each other out and winning in there. Very active baseball, basketball, football channels, football projections coming up. Football starts in 10 days? Preseason anyway? Right around the corner. Under $1 a day gets you access to everything that hits the website at rotoscouts.com. So give that a look. One last time, guys. Good luck out there tonight. Go win something. We'll see you tomorrow.